In a world that measures success by visibility and validation, there was something deeply revolutionary about listening to Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and Jamie Kern Lima. They sat together, just two women, stripped of titles, stripped of expectations, and tell the truth of their journeys. This was not an interview. It was a soul to soul gathering. It was faith speaking to faith. It was that sacred reminder that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come when no one, absolutely no one, is clapping for you yet. Welcome. This is Majesty Sussex Report, and I'm Antonio. Thank you for spending some of your valuable time here with us. The, the dialogue between Meghan and Jamie felt like a warm light turned on for every person still sitting in their own dark room, wondering if the seeds that they have planted will ever bloom. At the heart of their conversation was a simple, resounding truth. Faith must be louder than fear. Let me say that again. Faith must be louder than fear. Jamie shared openly about sitting alone in a rental car outside the QVC headquarters, preparing for her one shot that could either end in bankruptcy or in the life she dreamed of. Meghan shared about creating her business, started as American Riviera Orchard, and now, despite public pressure, she resisted rushing her timeline, choosing to wait for the moment that felt right deep in her spirit. Both women, at their most pivotal crossroads, could have listened to the noise. They could have listened to the no's, the rejections, the skepticism. They could have shrunk back. Instead, they listened to their knowing, what we know to be certain, to be true. I'm not going to get this right, but Maya Angelou said there's parts of you that you must keep secret, that no one must be or should be or even attempt to violate. It is your truth.
Well,
Hmm.
Well, I'm thinking that the best advice I've ever given, I hope, was that which I gave to my son when he was growing up. He said, I don't have any friends. How can I get some friends? And although I was very young, I told him two things. I told him, in order to get a friend, you have to be a friend. Be ready to be a friend. And also, I told him, there's a place in you that you must keep inviolate. You must keep it pristine, clean, so that nobody has the right to curse you or treat you badly. Nobody, no mother, father, no wife, no husband, nobody. Because that may be the place you go to when you meet God. You have to have a place that you say, stop it, back up.
Not
You
here.
must not, no,
No.
absolutely. And that's one I told you 25 years ago.
Yes.
Say no when it's no.
Yeah.
Say so. Back it up. Because that place has to remain clean and clear.
And that has to be a place within yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. That is the best. But nothing tops having the place inside
That's
yourself
right.
that nobody else
Nobody
has
has
a
the
right to invade.
No.
Yes.
And when the person comes with rude language to you or invasive language to you, you have to be able to say, back up. Not me, you don't. Don't you know I'm a child of God?
It is that sacred place that you keep pristine. That place, the knowing you know who you are, that deep internal whisper that faith plants inside the soul. Meghan said it best. You have to stay focused on what's ahead. What could feel like a breakdown could instead be a breakthrough. They reminded us that the seeds we plant, whether dreams, businesses, or acts of love, are often buried long before they bloom. Faith is what waters them in the dark. Their entire conversation was a testament to enduring when everything around you says to quit. Mm. It was a reminder that believing in your calling, even when no one else does, is the foundation of true success. The kind that isn't built on applause, but on integrity. I'd received an email from this organization, from their HR department, from one of their recruiters. I read the email and was quite intrigued. And this was for a new position, a new role within the organization. And when I read the description and all of that, I thought, well, this is quite fascinating and interesting because it's almost everything I'm interested in. And I think I would actually suit this role pretty well. So I contacted them back. They did what HR does and asked a few questions. Then we set another date for them to call me back again. And they did. And we had another set of um, questions asked. After the second set of questions from HR, then I was officially invited to attend or begin the interview process with this organization. In total, I ended up having 7 interviews for the role. And one of the things that was very important for me was to behave in the same way how I had behaved, or how I had answered the questions that HR had asked me. One of the things that I had proposed to myself was that I would be authentically me. I would no longer play the role or become an archetype of what was expected, or what society tells us is expected of this particular role or industry, or even of that office. I was becoming quite sick and tired of just not being myself. So I made a deal with myself and a deal with God. And the deal was that I would be authentically me, answer the questions authentically, not some pre-loaded, templated answer that I got from a business book or a coach or something I've read or watched, but authentically answer it from your own experience. If you don't have that experience, say you don't. I haven't had that situation, right? Be honest. Because I said, if it's meant for me, this job, this role, then it is mine. Because so it has divinely been created for me. If it's not for me, then I will not get it. And I will be okay with that. You see, I had to sort of build that in to my system, because rejection is not, it's not easy to deal with, right? You have all these questions about yourself, about all this really toxic, negative things. You start to go into your negative playlist that tells you that you're not worthy. So those were my contract with myself and with God. Now, two of my friends are very, how can I put this, career business people. They're just like focused, right, on achieving certain things, getting at a certain level, and they are relentless with it. I don't have that. That I do not have. Um, well, not in that way for corporate business, anyways. So I thought, these are my two friends that are career, and they're heading there. They're way on their way. So I called them, and we had a conference call basically. And I said, hey, so my interview is tomorrow. And immediately they said, like, they were like, okay, what are you wearing? Blah, blah, blah. Make sure you say these things. Make sure when they ask you about this, use these like buzzwords, blah, blah, blah. And for like 15 minutes, they were just like, just throwing things at me, blah, 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 blah. And I said, at the end, I said, thank you so much for all that advice. I said, it's very useful. I certainly will make sure I have it, front of mind. I said, but here's something really radical that I'm thinking of doing. And one of my friends goes, oh. And I said, well, what I'm planning to do is just to be myself, just to answer any question that is thrown at me authentically. I'm not going to make a fool of myself and be stupid, but I want to answer it authentically. And one of them said, okay. And the other one said, can I ask you why you've come to that conclusion, or why you taken that direction? I said, well, you know how we all wear masks? We all wear a mask. And I said, I'm tired of it. I'm truly tired of it. I said, I just want to be me, right? There's certain things about the business world that really bothers me. And if they ask me, I will say, this bothers me. It doesn't mean I'm not going to do my job well, but if you ask me, I will answer it. And I remember my one friend, he goes, do you really want this job or do you not want this job? What's the plan here? I said, I do want it. But if it's meant for me, I will get it. Being me, not trying to be what a book or a coach or someone else is telling me I should be. So, and I said, this is another thing I'm planning to do. And they're like, oh God, Antonio. I'm like, what? Easy, easy, easy. I said, well, I have designed these thank you cards. They're like, uh-huh. And I said, each one of the cards has a quote that I am very, um, that I identify with a lot. So after each interview that I have, I will leave the card with the person or with the reception, and it's basically I write the name of the person, and in the card I say thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. And here is a quote that means a lot to me. It's part of my value system, right? And I mean, there was Maya Angelou in there, and some other people, and then I would sign it off and said, hope the rest of your day goes fantastically well. My one friend said, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Antonio, please don't. Please don't. And I said, why not? Because it's so cheesy and so ridiculous. He goes, don't do that. He goes, dude, you're going for a corporate job for like this big company. Like, that is that kind of thing. No, like if you're going to some like little firm or some mom, yeah, no, don't do that, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. And my other friend was like, yeah, I think you don't want this job. I was like, wow. I'm like, okay. And they both were great, really, really great. I went, I didn't interview one, left the card, did interview two, left the card, interview three, left the card, four, and so on. And I got the job after all. And there was such level of satisfaction that my authentic self, me, I got that job. Not a pretend some that I'm pretending to be. I got it with my authentic self. And I, I had a meeting with the managing director of the department I was working in, and her and I just got along very well. And she said, because she gives talks a lot. She's at this conference, that conference, all over the world. And she said, in almost all of my conference, my speeches that I've given, I've always mentioned you. And I said, oh, why? I'm like, well, why would you do that? She said, you don't understand how impactful it was when, after I had interviewed you, you were so pleasant, everything was so great, you left, and then the receptionist came and handed me this card. And I have really good penmanship. That is a consequence of years of having to take calligraphy. um, and she said, here's this card, beautiful penmanship. I opened it, and there's this beautiful quote, and it said, "This is part of my values system." She said it immediately gave gave me an advantage, because she said, with the six of you who were the final people they were interviewing, you all had similar qualifications, similar experiences, and so on. Um, but when you did that, it just put you in a league of your own, because it showed creativity, it showed thoughtfulness, it showed that you went the extra mile, you were thinking outside the box, and you took some time to actually write a quote that meant something to you, that is part of your value system. So now I also know now that this is the type of person, besides everything we learned about you in the interview, now you've actually added something extra. So it completely placed you in a different category because of your thoughtfulness. And it was a good way for you to stand out. And then she found out, when she found out that I did it for every interview that I had, and that each one of them received a different quote. She said, "Imagine us in a room discussing the candidates, and we all take out our card that we got from Antonio. We read our quote, and she goes, we were able to completely envision the person, their values, the things that they stand for, and what they would bring to that role." And it was a no-brainer after that, right? Because you you were so authentic, creative, and even when we discussed the way you answered questions, that you would pause, or you would say, "I need to think about that, and may I have an extra 5 seconds or 10 seconds?" It showed that you really cared to provide an answer that you had thought about. So I mean, that was a long-winded example. I'm so sorry. I went off there, eh? Um, but it talks to that gut feeling that we get sometimes, and everything around us might be telling us, "No, do it this way, do it this way." And there's this gut feeling, this sort of intuitive feeling that is telling you, "Don't, just be yourself." Jamie talks about when she had hired the agency, the consulting agency, and they told her, this is what you need to do. You need to have this type of model, this type of this, and this. They have to have this type of hair. They need to look like this. And she was like, the models they were telling me they're like 12-year-old girls, right? And she's like, that's not what I want. I wanted to have people of different ages, different skin color, different, diversity. And when something, and it's the same thing with my friends, like once that got into my head, what they were saying to me, I really doubted myself. And I kept thinking, oh man, if I don't get it, then but I had to go back to that thing that said to me that I made a sort of agreement with, that if it's for me, I will get it. And if it's not for me, I will not. And in this case, it was for me. So we can have so many people giving us advice. And Jamie talks about this, where she talks about people just saying, do this, do that. No, you should show up this way. But there is part of us. And Jamie talks about it, where she said, there was this knowing, this thing, this faith that told me that this is what I needed to do. And listen, I'm not going to say it's going to work all the time, because sometimes you show up and you've been your authentic self, and the person interviewing you just looks at you like, oh my gosh, like who is this idiot? And here is where it's important, before you even go into that meeting or that interview or any of these things, is to say, if it is for me, God, I am open to accept it. I surrender. I surrender. I surrender to you. I will walk in there with the confidence, with each and every one of my ancestors behind me to lift me up. I will sit with confidence. I will speak the truth. If it is for me, then I will receive it. If it's not, it will be a no. I mean, there's another situation where there's this, and I'm not going to say what it was, but I applied for this particular role, I think 5 times. 5 times. And every time I would get to the very, very end of the interview process and I wouldn't get it. And I would read books on it. I was like, okay, I'm doing something wrong. And one of my friends uh, ended up getting this role. And I sat with them and I said, okay, in the interview process, in the one on ones, when they ask you this, is this, how did you answer it? And they explained to me how they answered it. And I was like, yeah, those answers are so similar, though. I did the same thing. And I was having a bit of a crappy day. And a very good friend of mine, she said to me, she goes, because that's not meant for you. She goes, look, I don't want to tell you not to keep applying. You obviously kind of want to work for that company. And, you know, perseverance is a good thing too. She goes, but have you thought that it might not be for you? That God is just saying to you, look, I know you think this is for you, but it's not. And that you're meant for something even greater. And I laughed. I laughed at her. I said, oh, come on. And she was dead serious. She's like, why are you laughing? She goes, I'm dead serious. I don't understand. Like, she goes, if there's something that God may know that not God may know that the universe, that your destiny is meant for something greater. Think about that, Antonio. And when I truly kind of stopped being silly and I thought about it, I really thanked her. I said, thank you, because it changed the way I looked at rejection. It changed the way I understood confidence and what was for me and what wasn't. I'm not going to say it didn't hurt, okay? It still hurt, but one was able to recover much faster from it. Okay, that was a long-winded story. but I truly hope that it sort of adds on, for me anyways, this my own personal experience to what Meghan and Jamie are talking about. Once again, thank you for being here. I take a lot of pride in doing this work and putting out content that I'm proud of. And I would like to continue to do so. So you have a hand in that. So if you can subscribe, if you're not a subscriber yet, put your notification bell on so you can know when we upload new material. Thumbs up to like, because why not? Do something good today. Share this with your friends, your enemies, your family members, that brother you don't like, that sister you really love. Share it with them and leave a comment. Now, again, some people know that there's a committee here, a censorship committee, and not all comments are going to be published for one reason or another. So, thank you, though. We come to the part where they talk about you are already enough. Because woven through, right throughout their conversation was a sort of quieter, but no less powerful theme. You are already enough. When Jamie shared about being told she didn't look the part, oh, oh, my heart broke for her, broke for her. She didn't look the part to sell makeup, to sell her own product. That her body, the thing that sustains her, that her body and her appearance wasn't right. I mean, you could feel the deep wound that so many women, especially, know too well. And I'm not saying men don't or guys don't. Trust me, we do. We do. A lot of pressure to look a certain way, right? Especially in today's atmosphere where everything is by validation, by clicks, by these unattainable sense of beauty and what is beautiful and what is not. So when Meghan reflected on being an actress, auditioning for roles she could never she could never fully fit because she wasn't sort of typecastable, right? She wasn't white enough, wasn't black enough, not the right image. You could hear the ache beneath the laughter. Because we know what that feels like. And in business, when you are pouring your blood and sweat into something and you're grinding and you're getting up and you're going and you're going and going and everything, you, you have minus $20 in your bank account. And all you want to hear is a yes, and it's just no, 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 no. And then they say to you, no, because of the way you look, because of your body. Oh, that's a blow below the belt. I really felt that pain because I think we all know it. We can identify with it one way or another. But what was more powerful, I think, than the wound was the healing. Jamie spoke about the deep gut feeling she had when that investor told her she would never succeed. I don't understand people who say these things like that. I don't get it. I don't. Yes, look, not everyone is going to be a this or that or whatever, but I don't understand the cruelty. And I still see it today in business in my last job. I mean, there is a certain meanness I would see, and I would say that that meanness is something that is developed. It's something that is learned. I'm not going to say everyone learns it. Some people are just mean because they are, and some people become mean, right? And others resist that sort of sense. And this is when I was talking about not changing who I am and to be authentically me. Being in the corporate world many times had this energy to it that in order to survive it, in order to advance, you needed to agree to be part of that culture of meanness, that culture of hierarchy, and those underneath or below you, you needed to treat them a certain way. And The best example I can give is at my former job. Um, they are workers there. They're part of what they called workplace, the workplace members, and they are part of the reception team. They're part of the people who, if we have a meeting and we need to order sandwiches or lunch or coffee or whatever, we send them an email. They go, they prepare it, they get it. If we need a meeting room rearrange a certain way, we would send them an email and say, I'm meeting so and so clients in room so and so. I need that room to be rearranged this way, right? So they're there many times. In other words, to be sort of like manual labor and to be um, team members that would assist us. I was surprised. I don't know. I to actually watch how people very quickly started treating others. So I was part also of the committee that new joiners to the company, I would welcome them, and I had a whole unit that I delivered in regards to unconscious bias and racism and all of that in the workplace, homophobia, all of that. So I would see these, right out of university, and bright eyed and so excited. They're part of this big company now, and great, nice people, and generally, right? I would say within 2 to 3 months, and I would hear, casually you'll hear someone speaking to, I'll hear them speaking to one of the receptionists, like with such condescending tone and very like, I am this and you are that. Know your place. Even when I would hear some of them speak to the folks that was helping, that would help to move things around, to rearrange a meeting room. This is not the way I said. I specifically told you to do it this way. Do you not know how to read your emails properly? Do you need me to read them to you? And I am thinking, is this for real? Is this happening in this time? These are these are folks that I'm like, what the? And more than one occasion, I've had to pull up a colleague out, or say, "Hey, can I speak to you briefly?" And I said, What was that tone?" "Oh, Antonio, it's just that blah, blah, blah." I said, "No, no, 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 no. Regardless of what the issue is, that's another person. We don't engage in that kind of tone and a way to treat people." I'm like, "Did you not read like our company policies and norms and the way we treat people?" But you see, they learned this behavior because the people above them, right? That's the way they still speak. Our very senior managers, our managing directors, that's the way they speak. So all this thing in regards to industries where we all, oh no, it's very progressive and this or that. I'm telling you, folks, like, it's all just on paper. But in order to advance, you hook into that culture. And I mean, that was always my difficulty, right? And my unwillingness to hook into that culture. So having this investor just say those things to her face, there's an intentional cruelty that exists there, right? This meanness, and we see it also with the people who write these nonsense about the Duchess of Sussex. There's an intentional evil meanness that gives them some kind of satisfaction. She couldn't allow herself to see herself through his eyes. Because if she did, she would already had failed. As insulting, as awful, as heart wrenching, heartbreaking, emotionally debilitating, affirmation of all the negative things that we tell ourselves. He said it in just a minute. But then you have to have that place that Maya Angelou talks about to say, no, 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 no. You're not allowed to talk to me like that. You're not allowed to talk to me like that. You're not allowed to talk about my body like that. This is my temple. But you see, what we often do is we then see ourselves through the eyes of the person who's telling us we're not worthy, we're not good enough. Instead of saying, well, that's your perspective. And I feel sorry for you, right? She said, I felt it in my gut. He was wrong. $1 billion later. Because you see how these narrow ideas of who's beautiful, who should sit in the C-suite, what do they need to look like, how do they need to speak. So, as Meghan said, it's not about fitting in. It is about expanding that definition of who is allowed to be seen, who is allowed to succeed. Their stories converge on this truth. They meet. We are not waiting for permission to be worthy. Not waiting. We are not waiting for the world delayed applause. Not waiting. We are already enough, and we always have been enough. Walk into that meeting knowing that if it is for you, you will get it. If it's not for you, that's okay. It wasn't meant for you. But you show up because you show up with excellence. And always remember walking with your ancestors because they all want to see you succeed. The power of a single yes. One of the most emotional sort of threads of the conversation was the sheer number of rejections both women faced. And the quiet, determined faith that kept them moving forward anyways. I know I can do this. I know this is good. I know this will help people. I know I am good enough. Jamie spoke about sending hundreds of samples, receiving hundreds of no's. No, 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 no. And still writing a thank you letter. When she said that, I went, Jamie, Jamie, I see you. I see you. I see you. Writing a thank you letter as if she knew the answer would one day be yes. Be yes. It's always fascinated me with um, these reality shows when a person would come in with peacock chests, all look at me, and then they would open their mouth to sing, and you would go, "Oh my Lanta, has this person ever heard themselves? Have they ever recorded themselves?" Right? But the thing that always got to me was the arrogance. You see, there's a difference between what we're talking about here, about that quiet confidence that and arrogance. When they would get their critique and they'd be like, "Yeah, you're stupid anyways. What can you, yeah, well, and blah, 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 blah." And I'm thinking, are you burning down the bridge that perhaps one day you may have to cross? Not for the same reason, but maybe for another reason. Your path might meet with these people again, or one of them. And Meghan talked about that when she said, "Yeah, these people move around. This company goes to that company and so on. And you never know if at that time and moment it was a no, but there was someone in that room who no longer works for that company, but now is working at another company, and that other company is looking for a product. And now that person remembers you because you're the one who sent the thank you note, the thank you letter. And when I know someone, let's call that person in for a meeting, right? She sent hundreds of samples out. And then when she got a no, sent them a thank you letter. Delicious. After every rejection, even the most painful ones, she said, I wrote them a thank you note as if I was 100% certain we would work together. I'm thinking some of them must have thought she was insane, and others must have laughed. And now look, she's living next door to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. She is a billionaire. Billionaire. Oprah is her friend. Meghan related deeply to this. She recalling her endless auditions, her own internal battles with doubt, and the sting of being told she didn't fit neatly into any category the industry understood. Hmm. Both women carried the weight of no, but they never let it outweigh their belief in the yes. They reminded us that sometimes the only thing separating despair from destiny is the courage to get up and try again. That no is not the end, it is merely the moment before the breakthrough. And that's sometimes the most important yes you'll ever receive is the one you first give to yourself. Mm, that just that is just tonic for your soul, for your soul. The first yes you'll ever receive is the one you give to yourself. Oh, as I listened to their conversation, I couldn't help but think about the systems the media, the corporations, the industries that profit from telling women they're not enough. We're not enough. And how that then piles up as we add in culture, ethnicity, skin color, hair color, accents. They tell us we're not enough. They sell us these stories of unworthiness, of fear, and division because it is easier, because it is profitable. And we see it right now with what is daily said and done about Meghan. There is an entire economy built on doubt, on you just feeling like nobody, invisible. My lips are to this, my eyes are to that, my hair is to this, my body is to that, my hands are to this, my knees are to that, my feet are to this, my ass is to this. An entire economy built on our insecurities, on headlines crafted to tear us down, on feeding insecurity, then profiting from the products that promise to fix it. And yet, they stood two women who refused to participate in many ways in their own erasure. Two women who refuse to let anyone else's timeline, anyone else's definition of success dictate their worth. That is the real revolution. Meghan's journey especially stands as a living rebuke to those who tried to diminish her. Despite the lies, despite the betrayal, despite the relentless campaign to silence and smear her, she continues to rise. Amen. Not in anger, but in authenticity. Not to prove herself, but to live her truth because she already knows, you see. Let's go back to Maya Angelou. She already knows. She knows that there's this part inside of her that is her essence. That no one, Maya Angelou makes it very clear, no one is allowed. No one. And for that, for the love she pours into her family, for the joy she finds in the simple acts of making preserves, jam, for the courage she shows by simply being, by simply being. Oh, when she said on the podcast, would have been nice to meet her. I could feel my eyes tearing up because I think her and Princess Diana would have just hit it off so well. So well. Princess Diana would be so proud. Let me rephrase that. She is so proud. She would see in Meghan a woman who understands that real royalty is not about crowns or tiaras or titles. It is about how you treat the world when no one is watching. It is about how you rise after you have been broken. It is about how you turn your pain into a path for others to follow. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, has left the prove it game behind. And in doing so, she invites us all to do the same. Because our worth was never up for debate. It was ours from the very beginning. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful human episode. I just sat and I listened so intensely. And at every turn when Meghan would say, "Oh, and tell him the story," or oh, she's gonna get to this part. And I kept thinking, please tell me this is gonna be a yes. Tell me it's a yes. And then she would say, and the person said no. Or in the middle of her pitch, that executive said, the woman said, no, 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 I'm gonna stop you. No, no. The cruelty of these people, but the courage of those who know, whose light that's there, that no one is allowed to touch. It's yours. You know, you know, you know. Mm. If you haven't listened to it, please go listen to it. It goes by so quickly. I just sat there and I went, what do you mean it's done? No, 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 no. No, no, you can't be done. Tell me more, tell me more. Beautiful. Across every conversation Meghan has hosted, whether with Whitney Wolford daring to rewrite the rules of relationships, with Rishma standing fiercely for mothers in the workplace, for young girls, with Katie Lee exploring creativity and transformation, or with Jamie Kern Lima planting seeds of faith in the dark. A single, undeniable truth has emerged. Worthiness is not given, it is claimed. Every woman Meghan has invited into this space has, in her own way, rejected the old maps of success, the timelines proposed by fear, and the narrow boxes built by doubt. They have not just survived the no's, they have built new worlds from them. They have turned obstacles into invitation. They have planted their essence, their dreams, their truth, and dared to trust the unseen growth. Meghan, too, stands firmly among them, not as a curator of stories from the sideline, but as a woman in the arena herself. She is telling a story, a new story of leadership, of a new kind of leadership. One rooted not in proving yourself to broken systems, but in choosing yourself anyways. choosing love, choosing authenticity, choosing joy. And through these conversations, she reminds us all you are not too late. You are not too much. You are exactly where you are meant to be. And the seeds you are planting, even now in the dark, are already destined to bloom. Princess Diana once showed the world how to lead with heart. Today, Meghan carries that torch forward, not with a title, but with the quiet, unstoppable power of living in her truth. And that, and for that, the world is already better. Her Royal Highness, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. What an absolutely delicious conversation, I think. And it's really rich and beautiful to have both the conversation that Jamie had with Meghan and now Meghan having with Jamie. It is just beautiful, and a sort of wonderful pathway or guide in this series of learning, of acquiring from others' experiences a rich texture of what one can apply to one's own journey. Just absolutely wonderful. I thank you for being here. Thank you all of you. To all of our new members, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. I hope you will continue to enjoy the content, and rest assured and know that I always work as hard to bring you the best that I can at this time and at this moment and with resources that I've got. So thank you very much for joining. I hope you encourage others too, so we continue to build our community. To my OGs, you folks know how much I love you. Thank you so very much. To all of you in the chat, thank you for being here. And to the ones who are, show up but are my, how can I put this? They are my secret weapon. Does that work? Those who always show up, they listen, they watch, they don't, they're not into commenting, they're not into any of that stuff, but they do enjoy checking out the material and being here. So I thank you all. Everything you do, every single thing you do brings me such great satisfaction and joy. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Before closing, I've gotten some messages, and let me tell you, some very spicy messages. Um, before I used to get all like worked up about them. Now I'm like, "Aw, they're upset. This person is upset," and I just laugh now because life is so beautiful and joyful. And let me tell you, I am never, ever, ever, ever allowing someone that is so unhappy with their own life, their own existence, that they think they're going to hook me into their space, their attitude, their aura of nasty darkness. Oh, honey, Babe, babe, let me tell you something. You got a wrong person today. This is the wrong person today, brought to you by Antonio. I love you all. Take care. Be kind to yourselves and to your loved ones. Until we speak again. Bye for now.